The Rachel Maddow Show starts
tonight on MSNBC.
This is not bipartisanship. This is not collaboration. This is using the power you have. And look, you have the power. You won the election. You've got the votes. This is your right to do this, and you're doing it. But let's not kid ourselves that there's some kind of bipartisan collaboration occurring here. Let's not kid ourselves that this isn't a negotiation with a gun in one hand.
Okay. Don't mince words.
Let's bring in right now Republican representative from Wisconsin and the ranking member of the House Budget Committee, Congressman Paul Ryan.
Welcome.
Sort of some tough talk, but we have this debate about bipartisanship and whether the president is being bipartisan or not. You look at the stimulus package, you look at this budget, and then you hear that health care reform. We may nationalize health care by not even going through the regular rules of the House. And we had Andrew Ross Sorkin on earlier, who wrote a story about how the FDIC just created $1 trillion because they knew they couldn't get the votes in the House. I mean, this is really...
We even hear the Federal Reserve talking about issuing their own bonds now. I mean, this is stuff that's getting out of control. But what I was saying there is with reconciliation, that means fast track. That means a bill for a national health care system can move through Congress with no more than 35 hours of debate total in a fast track process, which means they have all of the votes to pass it. Bipartisanship means you have to have collaboration, meaning you sit down together, you write bills, you collaborate, you compromise, you negotiate, and then you move together to pass things. That's not what's taking place here. What's taking place here, and look, like I said, they have the right to do this. They did win the election. What's taking place here is one-party rule, moving this stuff through faster than lightning speed.
Okay, I'm not going to argue the gun-to-your-head plan that's going on here. I don't argue what you said in that soundbite. But could the Republicans have done more to make something? What could they have done? What haven't they done?
In the past, or
no, right now, that's led up to this situation, that's led up to the description that you put out there.
Well, what we did do was we said, please, let's work together and have more centrist legislation. Let's not move hard to the left here, and let's see if we can figure out common ground. They didn't want to seem to do that. There's some talk occurring in the Senate, but not in the House at all. We've asked our Ways and Means Committee Chairman, Charlie Rangel, let's sit down and start talking health care reform and find where we have common ground.
What's he told you?
Haven't had a meeting yet. So what we decided to do is it's not enough for us to just criticize. And believe me, we're criticizing. You've heard this.
There's a lot of that, yeah.
We also need to propose alternatives. So with the budget, which is coming to the floor of the House today, the President's budget, we didn't just criticize this budget, which triples our national debt in 10.5 years, raises taxes $1.5 trillion in a recession. We put out an alternative budget which says, not only do we not think that's the right direction, here's how we would do things differently. So we're giving specific ideas on how we would do things differently. At the end of the day, the American people get better government because they have alternatives and choices.
Let's go to Carlos Watson in New York and then Pat Buchanan. Carlos.
Congressman Ryan, I applaud you for offering an alternative. Question to you, as you offer that alternative, will you not only call for cuts in spending, but will you also look to, as President Reagan used to call it, revenue enhancements, in any case, be they corporate, be they individuals at all?
Yes, what we do is we do cut spending, we control spending, we put binding spending caps on the budget, excuse me, and we call for tax reform, which broadens the tax base and lowers the rates. So there's a lot of loopholes and deductions in the tax code. What we say is let's plug those things so we can actually lower the rates and have a more fair tax code so everybody basically pays the same kinds of rates. We have a progressive tax system we're still calling for, but tax reform, which plugs those loopholes you're talking about, spending cuts and spending control is what we do in our budget.
But Congressman, are you willing? We saw in Britain recently, as they've dealt with their deficit, they raised rates on the upper echelon. Would you consider raising rates even for a short period of time on those super rich, if you will, not even the top 2%, but above that, those making north of $10 million in income?
Here's the problem with that kind of economics.
Well, first of all, it hurts Buchanan. But secondly...
So,
all right, forget about it.
Buchanan.
Very worried.
So the answer is no. Let me give you the reason why no. You got to remember, more than half of the folks filing at these tax rates are small businesses. 70% of our jobs in America come from small businesses. And so what you're doing is you're not raising taxes on Bill Gates and Brett Favre. You're raising taxes on those small businesses that have 25, 100, maybe 250 employees in an industrial park in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Those are where those tax rates are getting hit. You got to remember, we're in a global economy. We tax our employers more than our competitors tax theirs.
By the way, make no mistake about it. Bill Gates and the Oracle of Omaha, Mr. Buffett. People making over $10 million, they ain't paying 35%.
They're paying
taxes.
15%.
You say 15? I've talked to some of these guys. They're paying 13%, 14%, 15% because they can afford the best lawyers, Pat, the best accountants, the best trust attorneys.
The capital gains.
So the super rich, and this is the garbage that's put out on TV by a lot of liberals, and I'm not talking about Carlos at all. And I just needed to say that. No, I needed to say that because if I did,
Hey, Joe, I appreciate that you're not calling me garbage or a Trotskyite.
No, exactly.
We didn't say you weren't a Trotskyite.
But I hear though from, let's say, liberal websites day in day out, Republicans for tax cuts for Bill Gates. That's just a lie. We want to plug the loopholes so people like Bill Gates pay the tax rates, the same tax rates that you pay, that I pay, that everybody at this table pays.
Exactly. How do you answer Congressman Clyburn? We just had him on. He said, in effect, look, those guys stuffed the Bush tax cuts right down our throat in 2001 and 2003. They didn't bring us aboard on anything. And now we want health care. That's what we want. And we're going to do the same thing.
Well, number one, we had a number of Democrats that voted for those tax cuts in the Senate that helped us pass those tax cuts. You got to remember we were in a recession. We said, you know what, it's probably a better idea to lower taxes in a recession, especially in small businesses, than raise them, which is happening now. Reconciliation was designed to lower the levels of spending and to lower the levels of taxing, to keep the size of government in control and to make sure that we don't have a government that's growing out of control. What reconciliation is being used for now is unprecedented. This is a new kind of budget process where they're saying we're going to create a brand new government entitlement program and jam it through this reconciliation process. 51 votes in the Senate, 35 hours total debate between the House and the Senate, and move it through. This is 17% of our economy. And so we're saying that reconciliation is being perverted and abused in order to grow government, not to contain government, which is its intended process.
If you're going to nationalize 1/6 of the economy without holding more than 35 hours, and just the people that are going to be making this determination will be President Obama, and then in the House of Representatives it'll be Nancy Pelosi, Henry Waxman, George Miller. In the Senate, Ted Kennedy. I mean, friends all. Good people, but they are the far left of the Democratic Party. And those are the people that are going to determine what type of health care Americans get. It is, for a lot of people in middle America, that is frightening.
We have one actuarial firm, Lewin, that's telling us up to 120 million people could lose their private health insurance that they have right now under this new scheme that they're going to rush through Congress.
They can't stop it. You can't stop it, can you?
No, not unless Democrats change their minds.
Congressman Paul Ryan.
And that's going to make no mistake, that would be moderate Democrats in the Senate. That is the only hope for moderate legislation in any area.
And there are some good ideas out there. They just need a stronger voice at some point. They've got to be heard.
Need some help.
Thank you very much for coming on the air with us this morning. Nice to have you in the studio.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Coming up, a check on business before the bell with CNBC's international superstar.